Good morning. Today we have an interesting case. Customer brought this A2338 MacBook Pro in. It's late 2020, and the keyboard was shot. And as you can see from the replacement, I had to get a used one from eBay. Otherwise, it would have been, twice the money. But sometimes this can bite you when you do this. Okay, so let me show you what's going on with this now. Now that the board and everything is in place, the problem we're having is a very common one in this model. Again, A2338. There's also a 2337 and several other models of this era, 2020, 2019, maybe 2022, M1, M2, in that neighborhood. So we fire it up and you see I have a mouse hooked to it. Nothing works. Like it's clicking and nothing works. And if I move my mouse here, this works. So if I put my mouse right over here on shutdown and click, nothing happens. Okay? And if I put my mouse cursor in here, no password. Okay? This also of note is that as of yet, I've not been able to get this back on. This touch bar doesn't work either. But right now, we're just trying to get it to turn on and function with this and this. But both of these at the same time. Why does that happen? Let me show you how this all works and comes into play. Okay, so just the anatomy here. I've got the bottom off of it, and I've actually done a little bit of work to this, and this is what made me want to do a video here. Everything's in place. All of the cables are hooked up. Right here, this actually, before we do anything, it's always a good idea to disconnect the battery. On these models, you're going to have a little cable goes across here. It's hard to see, I know, but let me switch cameras, might be easier. So right here we have a cable that goes from here to here, and you want to just take your fingernail or something plastic and pick this up, and then you can just remove that cable just like that. Leave it plugged in over here. Secondly, there's one big fat screw right here, big flathead type of thing. That comes off. And lastly, a lot of times what I like to do, because that just holds this connector down, usually I'll take my fingernail and just raise this up just a little bit so it's not actually resting against the contacts. Okay, so now we have what we're looking for. Now, the way this plugs in, you've got the keyboard cable comes down here, and it actually hooks behind this part of the battery to the touchpad. And then the touchpad itself comes up this direction and connects right here to the board. So therefore, if you have a problem with any of those items, it will affect both of them in every case. Well, maybe not every case, but every case I've seen. And one thing you'll have a problem with is this cable right here. When you have this cable here, people aren't necessarily very gentle always with it. And just from the light, you can kind of see there's a little bit of damage to it right here. So let's go into the microscope, look at a couple things. This right here is where it plugs in. That's where the plug goes. And as you can see, it looks perfect. There's no damage whatsoever to the device itself, the motherboard. You will see a little tiny thing there, but that's not a big deal. It still would connect. However, if you go to this cable, it's a different story. I've actually already seen this under the microscope, so like I say, this is why I made the video. But if you look, follow this cable down, you come across this. Now, is this a problem? I really don't think so. But a lot of times, for instance, in areas like this right here, down the cable, a lot of times you get a rip right here because underneath it's glued. Like right here is a little bit of glue right there. But anyway, it gets glued down, and a lot of times when people pull up, they'll rip it right there. But in this case, it's something different. I flipped this over, and check this out. This was purchased on eBay. Right there. I mean, there's schmutz on it and everything, but this right here is completely broken. See if I can bend it at a better angle. See, it's completely gone. 5 or 6 connections. I didn't notice this at first. I noticed that it sat in here just a little weird, kind of a little lopsided, but it did go in. I thought maybe, sometimes you can have redundant ground pins and things, so maybe these pins right here, I guess that would be here, maybe those were just maybe ground or redundant pins, but sure enough, when I did have it plugged in, this did not work. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to remove this battery, which in this case is also a good thing because this battery absolutely is dead. I plugged it up for 15 minutes and I still got no charge, and it would not turn on battery, only when plugged in. So in many cases, it's just this cable. In other cases, it might be the touchpad. I'm going to start with just this first, and then if that still doesn't work, I'll replace the touchpad. But it's kind of a pain to do that, so I'm going to bank that it's this cable. So I'm going to take the cable from the other machine, which means I have to take their battery out because it's going in here, and then this cable right here. If this cable is replaced and it's only the cable problem, then everything should work, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to go off camera. I'm going to pull this battery out and the other battery out, and then I'll show you how to remove this and then replace it with the other one, and then we will try to turn it on and see what happens. Stand by. One other thing I probably should show you is how I remove a battery. Super easy. Always disconnect the battery, of course, but this is just a plastic kind of pry tool or something like that. But you can get these in a lot of different screens come with these sometimes. Batteries almost always come with these, but I save them and I use them, so I always have a stock of them. So anyway, you got to be careful. These batteries, if you rupture this could catch fire, and it's not a regular fire. It's lithium and other chemical fire, and it is hotter. It's almost like a phosphorus fire, but I've only had one happen to catch on fire, and it melted the aluminum within about 10 seconds. So the way I do this, never use metal. The way I do this is I actually take alcohol like that, and I spray it right here, a little bit on there like that. Okay, and then sometimes, not the center on this model, you'll see why, but sometimes I'll just put a little bit just right in there and right in there. It's not a good idea to use the cheap store stuff like the 78, 80%, whatever. You want to use 95% alcohol or higher. I got mine on Amazon. You can get them from like places where you get like hair stuff, like the beauty supply store. They carry that higher end or higher percentage alcohol. All right, so it's evaporating a little bit. All right, and then just go under here. Once you get it worked in there, just kind of just go back and forth. Sometimes you'll feel a little bit of a barrier, and that's just the edges of the case underneath there. There's nothing that you can really hurt underneath this. Being that it's an angle, this is going a little bit like an angle like that. I'm going to put some in the top because this will work its way down. This alcohol is really good with getting that glue to release. Like right here, look. I've seen people make videos about taking these batteries out, and they use heat and everything else, but this battery has 3 panels to it, and one came out that fast. Well, almost. One of them, there we go. Real time, 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And then behind it, you've got these strips, which we can worry about. All right, and then so we're going to go with the second one here. And that's had a little time to soak, so right there, maybe like right here, there's a piece of metal. Let's see what it is. Yeah, you can see it over here. That metal, you got to get your thing over it like that. So I'm just kind of go at an angle. Once I get it over it, it'll work a lot better. There we go. Once you get past that, and I mean different models, you just have to kind of feel it out. Different models are different. But in a situation where you're not replacing the actual touchpad, that's where it was sticking, right there. So you go at an angle over here or something. This metal one's just a bit different. We're still using alcohol. Just a little bit. I want to go a little more careful on this middle one, and you'll see why. In this one, I think I'm going to go from the side here and just work it underneath there. And you got to be extremely careful. You'll see why in just a second. You never want to really manhandle this, just like, you know, crank it like that. You just want to be really, really careful to just barely lift it, because if you fold that, that's you can compromise the battery cell, and then that's fire time. So I'm just going around the outside. You'll see why. So, like I say, in a situation where you are not replacing, you're just replacing just the cable, then you got to be super careful. And in this case, I am just replacing the cable. However, if damage happened, I could replace the whole thing. So, just about got it. And if you do this many times, you will get the you kind of get the feel of it. But once it goes all the way across, we can just lift it right out. There we go. Now, there we go. All right, so we're going to lift this out, and I'll show you why I was so careful with the middle. This. Okay, so this, let me see if I can switch to this here. All right, so the cable comes out right here, and then it goes out the bottom, and then bends over the top. Okay, let me get a better angle. So it does this. So basically, that is where it connects. So we're replacing this entire cable, and then we'll put the other battery in. But I'm going to see. I'm going to try to turn it on without the battery. I have another video that shows how to do that, because normally you push the power button and it'll just blink. It'll just blink a little bit and not turn on. Anyway, so to remove the touchpad on these, you're going to see a bunch of screws. I believe you just need to hit these screws here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I think these two, and this thing should just fall out. You got to be super careful though, because this right behind that is the screen, So I'm just going to quickly remove these screws and see if I can get this opened up, and then you pull this through there as well. All right. Okay, so now we've got all the screws out and you can see it moving around. So we just carefully lift this open, and look, it just fell out just like that. So you be very careful with this. There we go. And then this goes through here, and that's what we do. Now, I've changed my mind, because if you look, tons of water damage, liquid damage. I don't know if it's actually affecting it, but there's a ton of it. So I'm going to replace the entire thing, cable and all. I mean, you can see liquid, and you can see a little bit right there, a little bit of corrosion. All right. Yeah, this is usually like conformal coating, so it's usually kind of protected, but I've seen many times where this actual part right here rusts or corrodes, and of course we know that's messed up. All right, so I'm going to pull the other one out and then compare the two and put it in there, and then we'll see about checking it out. When you do pull these out of here, just keep in mind that these have these little maybe it's like a rectangular washer, I guess you could call it, but they go over this. So you don't want to lose those, but you definitely don't want to lose them in somewhere in here, because it will, it could fry the computer. Okay, stand by. Okay, awesome. I just learned something extremely useful for the very first time. The other one had the battery still in, and if you take out those screws that we removed, this falls out with the battery still in place. This goes around the battery. So we're good. So let's compare the two. I mean, whoever sold this to me on eBay should be ashamed of themselves. This thing is obviously liquid damaged. So you want to be careful with removing these, because you can damage this. However, if you're replacing the whole thing, some cases, some people watching this, you know, have this kind of damage, liquid damage or spill, or a shorted out one of these touchpads, which affects the same problem that we're having with a bad cable, for instance. So this is basically for all those scenarios where you have, you know, a non-working keyboard and touchpad at the same time, regardless of why. So anyhow, I have to replace the battery in this one anyway, so I'm not going to sweat it too much. So to put these back in, just line it up. Line it up in the, there it goes, I think. There it goes. Once you get it lined up, it's usually a good idea to hold it with a couple fingers and get maybe 1 or 2 screws started, and then you can close it and put the rest of the screws in. So I'm going to choose this one right here. You want to be real careful that you have this completely and correctly seated. Otherwise, you can end up bending it if it's sticking over to the side or something. And then you are out of luck. All right, so. All right, good. Okay, so I'll put these rest of these screws in. Okay, it just occurred to me that this is not one of those ones where the keyboard connects here and then this goes up here. The keyboard connects here, but most definitely a bad keypad or touchpad can cause the keyboard not to work. Bottom line. All right, so I'm going to put the rest of these screws in, like I said, and then we will test this new touchpad. Okay, also I should mention that these screws here are longer than these two right here. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so as you can see real easily, that one is perfect. There's no damage to it. So we're going to plug it back in here. And what I said a minute ago, you can have the configuration where this keyboard plugs into here and then this plugs into here, as well as this one where this plugs in here and this plugs in here. And if this is not functional, the keyboard can also not work. Okay, so now I've got it back together enough. Don't have the battery in, and normally it won't start like this, but there is a way of doing it. It's in another video of mine, but basically you hold this down about 10 seconds. This is to do it without a battery. Otherwise, you'll just get that blinking empty battery signal. About 10 seconds or so, you plug this in, give it a couple seconds, and let go. There you go. Okay, so now the question is, I don't have the mouse plugged in, nothing's plugged in. Now, even though that touchpad had nothing to do with the keyboard as far as where they were plugged in, let's see what happens. And once again, it worked. So we're going to see if we can get something in here. Look at that. That works too. Okay, so that is the whole deal. Whether you've got liquid damaged touchpad, whether you've got a bad keyboard, it's all tied in somehow with Apple's wisdom. So we're going to go ahead and finish this up. We will replace the battery in this and we'll be good to go. And if you like this, feel free to subscribe and check out my other videos. That would be cool. And you can always reach out to me directly. My email is on my main page, and I do mail in repair. So if you need anything repaired, you're welcome to send it in, and I will take care of you. Okay, thanks a bunch, guys, for watching. Have a great day.